Hello and welcome to the Poor Hammer Podcast, episode 72. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
Alright, we had a different plan for this week originally, but I've gotten the same question from at least 10 different people, so I'm just going to make this episode now so that I can stop getting the question. We're going to be covering the value of all of the combat patrols for 10th edition and which ones are worth buying for you.
Sounds good.
Alright, before we begin, quick rules of engagement. We're not talking about the Combat Patrol format. GW just released the rules for it. Every one of these boxes comes with different rules for that format.
Which is potentially good?
Potentially it's very good, because it means they'll be more balanced against each other. You're not going to have the issues of Grey Knights versus AdMech or something.
Well, at least in theory.
Yeah, so we're taking that out of the equation. We're talking about these as collection building options for going past the Combat Patrol standpoint. For the Combat Patrol format, I'm going to say I trust GW did a decent balance pass on it, and it's probably good enough. Any of them is fine. You're okay if that's as far as you're going into this game.
Yeah, that's kind of my expectation. But, I mean, again, we haven't really tested it yet because it just kind of came out. So maybe in the future, if things are really weird, we'll bring it up again. But I expect it's probably fine.
So we're looking at these as a way to start your army, or expand upon a different starting point if one exists.
Right. There's a couple outliers, like the ones that don't have combat patrols, being the Knights, obviously, and Quins, because Quins don't really exist anymore.
Yeah, pour one out for our homies there. For everyone else, we're going to do a simple yes, no, maybe so scale. I believe this is a classic.
Yeah, I learned that in grade school, so let's keep it going. Let's start off with Sisters.
Adepta Sororitas gets you a Canoness, a Rhino that's a Sisters Rhino, so it's like special looking. The Redemptor Superior with the Sisters Redemptia Squad, a Penitent Engine, and 3 Arcoflagellants, 5 Seraphim, and 10 Sisters of Battle. That sounds like a lot. It kind of is.
It kind of is.
The problem is Sisters are very expensive to field as an army.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because they're a very trade-heavy army of, like, get into action and then die in response kind of thing. So the point costs aren't like, oh, they'll be around forever.
Yeah, they're all pointed low, and the kits are pretty expensive. So all of these models is only 500 points on the dot right now at the beginning of 10th.
Which isn't bad.
It's not the worst. And technically, like, 4 of this box equals a 2,000 point army. Not my favorite 2,000 point army, but it exists.
You've got a few too many rhinos at that point, even though they are special rhinos.
Yeah, and I don't think there's no way to run 4 Canonesses, and you can only run a max of 3 most squads, but you could up squad sizes for several of these units.
It's a good start point for the first box if you don't have anything, and potentially a second one.
Yeah, so discount-wise, these are like 48% or so.
Half off, woo!
Yeah, the problem with them is it's hard to judge because these are the monopose kits from their original relaunch. They're not full kits. So the Sisters have a static loadout on them. It's what would be considered half a box of Repentia. The Seraphim can't dual build into Zephyrim.
Yeah, and that's honestly, out of all of those, that's the biggest knock against it for me.
Yeah, you're very limited on this box compared to buying these kits normally, which is why it's such a huge discount. It's not a deal breaker for me, and I think 1 is a snap keep. You absolutely want to get one of these if you're into Adepta Sororitas. Then you may want to check if you want a second one, and I don't think you're going past that amount of them, and then you're probably just buying kits for the rest of the army.
I definitely agree on that.
A nice change from 9th is everything is legal to field. There was an issue where, like, 3 Arcoflagellants wasn't a legal size before, and it was a half-size squad of Repentia that doesn't scale up well because you ended up with 2 Repentia Superiors, and it was kind of a hot mess in the end of 8th / beginning of 9th there. But now this is a legal box, so that's nice.
I'd say, yes, good pickup. Let's move on to an elite squad, Custodes. They must be awesome.
So Custodes is a very good value for the most part.
I mean, they were insane before.
So for Custodes here, you get 5 guard, one of which can be built as a captain. You get 3 Virtus Praetors, which are the bikes, one of which could be built as a captain if you wanted to. And you get 10 Sisters, one of which could be built as the Sisters character, although then you end up with a weird squad size.
Yeah.
This is where this kit actually got worse going into into 10th than it was in 9th. 10 Sisters is a little bit rougher of a sell now. I feel like it's still fine to buy one of this box, but they are a good chunk of the value. And after you own enough Sisters, duplicates of this box are going to be worse than just buying more Custodes.
Yeah, and Witch Seekers are bad. So, like, you don't have the, like, oh, we'll just put them into that instead kind of thing as, like, more options, but...
Yeah, my default loadout for this is going to be, like, 5 Prosecutors, 5 Vigilators.
Yeah.
And if you want, you could build one of them as the Sisters character just by putting it on a slightly bigger rock or corkboard or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then just say it's the Sergeant when you don't want it to be a character, because there's no, like, distinction between those models.
It's still a very good starting point for Custodes.
One box is still a slam dunk. It's still 670 points. The first box is still like a 35% discount, more or less. I think the second box is a really hard sell at this point, because it's very unlikely you're going to need more than 10 Sisters. Should things change up over the edition, 2 boxes of this might be fine.
Yeah, it kind of depends, just because Sisters has so much of the value, essentially.
And while Custodes' box got a little worse, in my opinion, Admech's box actually improved, strangely enough.
From complete trash to...
Sort of trash. So for Adeptus Mechanicus, the box is 1 Tech Priest Enginseer, 1 Onager Dunecrawler, 3 Cataphren Destroyers / Breachers, and 10 Skitarii Rangers / Vanguards. With how 10th has priced Admech, comments about balance aside, the box is a better value now. It's approximately like 460 points if you max built everything. If you min built everything to the cheaper squads, it's like 405 points. I think my build is somewhere in between with what I like currently in the army.
Which, like, isn't terrible if you just look at it like point value cost.
But it's on the low end.
It's on the low end, and there's some balanced discussion on the point cost for Skitarii, in my opinion, but...
I think Vanguards at 100 points isn't the worst. Rangers are criminal right now. If someone was asking which to build, I would say Vanguard right now, but I don't know, in 6 months.
Right, it's hard to tell when their actual codex comes out. Things could change drastically, but this is not terrible given how expensive Admech is to actually build.
Yeah, that's the thing, is this is still a 33% discount, even though it's low in points, just because Admech are such expensive, awful kits to have to deal with when you have to buy them individually. This army is not cheap if you're new.
No.
And I think my only real problem with this box that keeps me from recommending multiples is the Enginseer is the worst character. If it had just been a Tech Priest Dominus, this box I would say buy 2 of them at least.
So this is something that I actually don't know. Is there any way to like kit bash, hack together something with the Enginseer?
No, you could probably trick him into a different bad character, but the problem is like the Enginseer, it's an old guard model that got turned into an Admech model because it used to represent the Admech in guard before they were a thing.
And it very much is not like the rest of them.
Yeah, he's just a dude with an axe. It's not like Dominus or Manipulus where they're like horrible aberrations.
Okay, so that does make it pretty disappointing to have multiple of.
Yeah. If you could find a way to kit bash it into a Skitarii Marshal, probably using bits from like the Vanguard kit or something.
Yeah.
You might be able to get away with that, and if there's a way to do that, then 2 of this is probably fine. The Enginseer, when you take it out of the equation, the box is like barely a discount anymore, and I guess at that point, if you need exactly everything else, you could buy it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even if it is like, oh, it's just a free Enginseer at that point.
Yeah, but like Breachers are good this edition, Destroyers look pretty good, the Dunecrawler looks pretty good.
I actually think the Dunecrawler is legit.
I do as well. Both tanks are quite good this edition. The Skitarii are the elephant in the room right now.
It's a point thing. We'll see.
Yeah, it could all be fixed in 3 months. That's why it's not worth getting into that.
Yeah, first one, good for Admech. Let's move into Aeldari next, I guess is alphabetical.
What, you don't like your silent A's, Eric?
No, and also I have problems with it being Aeldari.
Yeah. So the Aeldari box is a Farseer, a Wraith Lord, 6 Wind Riders, and 10 Guardians with their little extra thing.
Yeah.
The box is a good value. It's like a 40% discount. It's 495 points. You might be able to kit bash duplicates into other units because I know like the Farseer can be on a bike. I don't know how different it is if you can torso swap one of the bikes.
I'm not sure on this exact one, but I have seen posts of people doing the Farseer on a bike, so I don't know how much effort that was.
And multiple Wraith Lords probably is fine. Multiple units of Guardians, it's a basic troop. It's not my favorite troop in Aeldari. They've got a lot of options, but
It'll do fine.
my only problem is it's a lot of bikes.
I don't hate that, but
You have to like the bikes.
once you get to like, okay, we've got 2 of them. Well, now, do you really need more?
So, like, if you like bikes, this is probably a snap pickup in multiples. If you're not a big fan of bikes in Eldar, then I would say,
I think the first one's still good.
yeah, it's probably still worth getting one.
Hopefully, when it comes back in stock.
All right, let's talk about one of my least favorites.
Guard. Wait, no. Astra Militarum.
So yeah, the Imperial Guard / Astra Militarum box is still an awful design in my opinion. It's a Cadian command squad.
It's such a stupid thing. Even if it was point cost well and it worked out in like balance or whatever, it doesn't have a tank.
So it's a Cadian command squad. It's 20 of the Cadian shock troops. It's 1 armored sentinel, which you could build as a scout sentinel. And it's got 2 field ordnance batteries, which is 1 unit now.
I mean, it's not many points and it's missing a tank. But then again, Guard is not a particularly cheap army to get into anyways, so
365 points. It's super low in point cost. I just can't recommend it. Like, one of it is probably fine.
if you picked it up, it's not like you've wasted money.
No, it's just Guard is very expensive to field.
It's not one of those like, oh yes, go get it.
It feels like half a box, which sounds stupid because it's a lot of models, but it needs a centerpiece model in the box, and that would still only bring it up to about right in point cost compared to everything else.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you saw it and you got one, sure.
It's definitely a maybe. It's not the worst thing ever if you pick up. If you have no command squads yet, you've got no troops yet, this is your first box ever, you're going to use everything in this box. That's not the issue. It's just, I feel like the box could have had more in it.
And also, it's like still currently out of stock, so I wouldn't go out of my way to try and track it down for higher money or something like that. But moving on, let's hit chaos stuff. We're in Chaos Demons.
Okay, Chaos Demons is actually really good as long as you like Khorne.
Yeah, that's the rub, isn't it?
So it's a Bloodmaster, 2 10-man Bloodletter squads, 3 Blood Crushers, and then 10 Flesh Hounds. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's 665 points right now, which I'd argue is a little high because I think Bloodletters are slightly overcosted currently, more than slightly.
Yeah. I'm not sure I completely agree on how much, but I agree that it is over.
Even if they dropped by like 20 points per unit, you're still looking at over 600 points of models. It's a 45% discount price-wise.
So long as you like Khorne, get it. And it's even fine, like, if you're just kind of interested in getting into Chaos Demons, it's a solid pickup, even if you're mostly interested in one or the other.
I will never tell a demon player to pick up a part of demons they hate, because you're not going to like running them.
No, I agree. If you completely hate it, don't get it. But if you're like, yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's kind of okay, I think it's good value as like a starting point to learning and seeing if you actually do like it.
I think straight up, if you like Khorne, 2 copies of this is really good as a starting point. And then you can start getting into buying Bloodthirsters and stuff.
Yeah.
You won't waste having 6 Blood Crushers, 40 Bloodletters, 20 Flesh Hounds, 2 Bloodmasters. At some point, you'll build a list that uses that many of each of those units. Sometimes many more.
Yeah, sometimes many more. But it's just a good Khorne intro box, essentially.
It's weird because it's like slam dunk for Khorne lovers. Maybe for Chaos Demon players.
And no, if you don't like Khorne, don't get it.
Yeah. Alright, so Chaos Space Marines. It's real hard to evaluate this box without remembering what they took from us. You get a Dark Apostle with his little guys, a Hellbrute, 5 Havocs, and 10 Chaos Space Marines.
It doesn't sound like much, but yeah.
It's 575 points. Price-wise, it's right about average at like a 33% discount. There's problems though. Mostly the Havocs only come with the weird one of each gun thing. They might have 2 of one of the options, but you're going to want to run them all with the same gun. Havocs are in a weird spot right now, like all of the old Devastators, Scourges, and Drukhari, all of that. One of the kit is annoying, and buying 4 of it just to get the right gun is terrible practice.
Right.
So, like, you gotta find bits online.
And the Havoc is one of those where, like, you just get everything. It's not the War Gear option kind of thing.
Yeah, you just pick which gun you're going to pick.
Which is nice, but if they don't give you the option to build the gun that you want to pick for all of your units, it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, so if you care about WYSIWYG, Havocs lose some ground. The Hellbrood is only okay. I don't think it's the best thing ever, but it's better than it was.
And I think that there's a decent amount of people that like the Hellbrute.
Yeah. Overall, it's a fine box to start off with. I don't think it screams that you should buy it. It's very much up to your taste, because CSM has a wide range. You have to look at what you like in the army and if you want to pick this box up.
I feel like you're more down on it because you know what it was.
There's that as well. Rip the old Start Collecting box, which was 2/3 of this box's price and had 40% more points within the box, and the units in the box were just straight up better.
Yeah, so taking a step back from that, I think it's good value if you're interested in this part of Chaos Space Marines. But like you said, there's a bunch of different flavors, so like it's not a slam dunk, but I think the first one's good if you're interested in this part of it.
Yeah, solid maybe from me. Let's go to one that's not a maybe. Death Guard is a God no, don't do this to yourself. You get Typhus, a Biologist Putrefier, 7 Plague Marines, and 30 Poxwalkers. Let's dissect this turd. Technically, it's 555 points and a 36% discount if you needed every model. Wow, that sounds good. Why do I hate it? In 9th edition, it wasn't legal because you couldn't run 30 Poxwalkers with 7 Plague Marines. In 10th edition, that's not the problem. The problem is Plague Marines can only be played as paying for 5 of them or 10 of them, but are sold in 7s. They are a hot dog and hot dog bun problem.
Yeah.
An infuriating one at that.
It's fine for the first one.
I don't even think it's fine for the first one. You have to like Typhus. He's at least not locked to a single detachment anymore.
Yeah, okay. I guess you do still have to like Typhus, but because he's not locked, I think it's fine.
Yeah, he's a named character, so you would never ever want a second one. You're getting 30 Poxwalkers, and that's half the Poxwalkers you can legally field. So I have trouble recommending this box at all. I would never, ever recommend a second copy.
No, God, no.
I think just stay away from this Death Guard box and wait for things to get better.
That is probably the right choice. Let's move on to Drukhari.
So this is quite the opposite. Drukhari is a very good combat patrol, notoriously good. So Drukhari, it comes with an Archon, 10 Kabalite Warriors, 5 Incubi, a Ravager, and a Raider. The downside is it's Cabals only, so if you like Witch Cults or you like Covens, you get nothing from this box. But most people tend to like Kabalites in addition to one of the other two, or they like all 3.
And given 10th index, it's pushing you to use all 3 essentially.
That's an index problem. That's temporary. It's because of a single detachment.
We'll see. I don't know about that. But it's not a terrible idea to have the options of these, even if you're mostly interested in the other parts. But that's if it's a good deal.
And it is a good deal, because, like, ignoring the fact that most people will take all of the extra Kabalites off of the boats and put them onto some cheap 25mm bases, you still get a 39% discount before doing that.
Which is pretty nice. It's not quite as good as it was in 9th, because the extra dudes, like, to actually field them, were stuck in 10 kind of thing.
Yeah, but you do get, like, a whole extra 10 dudes out of this box. At least I always have.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, if you get 5, well, that is nice, and that helps, but...
No, I would argue one of the main problems now is with Kabalites, they're priced like you're always going to take your special weapons.
Yeah.
And the old reason you used to love the extra bodies is you could have more basic splinter rifle loadouts, you could have more special weapons that you could choose not to field because they're bonus dudes. Now, if you're always fielding all your special weapons, then the bonus bodies mean less because it's less likely you're going to get full value out of them.
Yeah, they did help the amount of gunfire, even if it wasn't the best gunfire type thing.
And you would use them for back point holders just for, 5 guys with a splinter rifle before.
I mean, I still think the first one is good.
I still think buying 2 of this is good. It's just I no longer think buying 3 to 5 of them is good.
If you're into the cab side, 3 is probably fine.
3 is still probably good if you're into Kabalites. There's not a wasted thing in this box. You should magnetize your Ravagers to be spare Raiders when you want them to be. It's literally 4 magnets in 2 little pairs and you're done.
Yeah.
Ravagers look good right now. Raiders are always good in Drukhari. You're always going to want to own 3+ Raiders.
The time that Drukhari doesn't want a bunch of boats is when Drukhari isn't Drukhari anymore.
Yes, it's when Drukhari is very bad.
Right, like, so having a bunch of boats is good.
Incubi are not in the best spot right now, but they are a core unit of the army. Archons, now with the new leader system, you will probably be running multiples more often than when you used to run only one, so that actually improves the value of the box a bit. I still think it's a slam dunk, and if you like Cabalites, multiple are a slam dunk.
All right, Genestealers.
All right, Genestealer Cults. This is what I consider to be the most important box of all of them. If you are looking to get into Genestealer Cults, this box is a godsend. You get a Magus, a Goliath Rock Grinder, which could also be a truck, 5 Aberrants, 5 Acolyte Hybrid/Hybrid Metamorphs, and 20 Neophytes. This maxes out at like 610 points. There are other builds you can do that are less points. It's a 46% discount, and these are full kits, meaning that's the real discount if you need them all.
And given that Genestealer Cults is an expensive army to put together, the discount on this is huge.
Yes. Building Genestealer Cults without this box would be a nightmarish task you would never want to do.
Yeah.
This box, if you are building Genestealer Cults, is a ×2 buy for sure, ×3 buy 99% of the time, and you may actually buy 4 copies of this box someday. That's not insane to think about.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that, but the first one is insane value. The second one's just pretty much a slam dunk.
So here's the thing. This covers all but 2 boxes, not counting character blister packs or whatever. This is all but 2 boxes of the army. You're getting 1 of each, and 2 of each for the hybrids.
Which, yeah, I mean, given that that's basically the entire army options, not only is it good value, it's also, here's a box, here's 2 of them, and you have all the options basically in your army. You don't have to go tracking down.
It comes with your main tank / your main transport unit. It comes with your heavy melee bruisers. It comes with your elite choice, 1 of 2 of them, and it comes with your basic troops that you're going to be spamming 80 plus in an army usually. It has everything you want, ignoring the Magus, which the first Magus you'll probably play. You might run 2 sometimes. After that, you probably won't run them, but whatever. It's such a huge discount.
Even if you take out the Magus, it's still a massive discount. And if you're looking to get into Genestealer Cults, get this. Get 2 of them, and then keep an eye out for the 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, this is something that you will not regret buying if you're into Genestealers. And it's what Guard and AdMech should be looking at. This is what a box should look like for an army that's that expensive to buy. Without this, I would say stay away from those armies, because they're criminally expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, if you're just getting in and you like Genestealers, and you can't find this box, don't. Basically, like...
It's that simple.
I mean, at a certain point, go find some 3D prints or something like that. Because, like, tracking down all the boxes for them individually, you're going to waste so much money and time. It's insane. So, Genestealer Cults, get the boxes. They're good. Slam dunk. Let's move on to another one, Grey Knights. This is always been good value.
It's still the best value if we're just going by point count.
Yeah.
You get a Librarian, you get a Nemesis Dread, which can be the character, you get 5 Terminators, which is the full kit and can be Paladins, and you get 5 Strike Marines, which can be any of the Strike Marine equivalents. It's the entire Grey Knight army in a box.
It is basically the army in a box.
This is the one that it's only a 20% discount if you need all the units, but like Librarians are so good now that I think you're going to want 2 or 3 in your army, and you can always kit bash it into a chaplain very easily.
And now that Terminators are a good option in comparison to Strikes, you're not going to be like, oh, I wish I could play my Terminators. They're just sitting on the shelf and looking so cool.
That's just your inner Grey Knight player bitching right now.
It absolutely is a bit of salt.
Yeah, it's been a long 3 years.
But the fact that you, like, individually, the boxes... price-wise is not a huge discount, doesn't make a massive deal because it is a discount. You're going to use all of these, and it's also just nice to have it all in one box.
Yeah, it's 775 points if you max loaded out everything, right? Like you pick the Paladins, the Purgation Squad, the Character Dread. Just in like a pretty normal loadout, it's 740 points still. Taking the Librarian out of the equation, it's still over 500 points a box.
And it's not like wasted points either. These are all models that you're going to play.
It's your whole full army.
You buy the first one, you buy the second one, and
You probably buy a third, and then the librarian in that one becomes a chaplain. You probably at a certain point start building characters out of your Terminators so that you can have like a Grandmaster on foot or a brother captain or whatever.
yeah, I think with the final third box or whatever, you can take those Terminators and turn them into characters.
And you're going to buy more than this. Like,
Yeah.
at a certain point with Grey Knights, you're going to end up buying everything in this at least times 3 at some point in your Grey Knight collecting career. Probably more. Most Grey Knight players have 20 to 40 Terminators sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Or more. Depends on if you're counting Paladins as well. Here's like, I've got 40 Terminators, I got 40 Paladins. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic box. Get it. Not much more to say about that.
All right, let's move into Leagues of Votann.
It was good previously in 9th because of how points were forced.
Yeah, that was not on purpose.
No.
So it comes with a call, which can also be the named call. It comes with 5 Berserks, which are still not called Berserkers and makes me mad. 3 Pioneers, which are the bikes, and then 10 basic warriors. It's only 465 points. It's still under 500 points even with the named call. Votann changed from last edition, which was not a purposeful change. They weren't supposed to be Custodes tier last edition.
They just, because of the army rules, had to be point to that to be fair, essentially.
So this box is looking a lot worse now. I still think it's fine if you want to get into the army. You're probably going to have at least double of what's in this box for each of the units in the box, and it is a discount, so like, sure.
Yeah, and because you get to change the call into the other ones, there's a few options there. You're going to want at least 2 of them in basically every army.
I think double call will be pretty common just because you need to guarantee one of them stays alive all game.
Yeah, judgment tokens are just so important. So this is probably a 2 of. Hopefully you can find these. They're out of stock and not the most common, so hopefully you can pick it up. That said, it's also going to be an expensive army to start collecting because they have point balanced again to what they should be kind of in original intent. Not to the point of Genestealers or AdMech, but it's definitely one of the more expensive.
Yeah, they're not that expensive to field, but they're still, it's rough when you're paying like literally over $100 for your main tank.
That's a big problem, yeah. But this is a good pickup. Let's talk about Necrons, which used to be fucking awful.
Necrons just changed. The new kit isn't technically out yet when we're releasing this, but they already showed it off. You're going to get an Overlord, 10 Warriors, which come with 3 Scarabs on the sprue, 3 Scorpek Destroyers, and a Doomstalker. This is a much better box than what we had last edition, which was the worst, absolute worst one.
I disagree on that, but it was pretty terrible.
It was offensive to the eyes. So the new one is pretty decent. I would prefer it be a different Overlord in the box than the one that's in there, just because different Overlord sprues have different options on them, which is very obnoxious.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that. I was asking earlier when we were talking about these, and apparently the Overlord in Necrons is like 4 different.
Yeah, there's so many different builds you have to go hunt down if you want to WYSIWYG them all.
That's dumb. But it's still an Overlord that's good.
Yeah, an Overlord, you'll end up running at least 1. Warriors, you're going to want more than 10 eventually. Scarabs are always good, they're best boys. Scorpeks are great. The Doomstalker is finally playable.
I thought it was playable before, but that's because I thought it was so cool. But it's solid now.
Yeah, the box is just solid all around. Now, it has the problem that people are pointing out where currently with the 9th edition box is still available. You can buy this box for $10 less and get a bunch of free Space Marines. So technically this is a worse deal than what exists currently, but that's kind of disingenuous since all of those boxes are discontinued.
Yeah, I was like, those boxes aren't going to be around forever, and this is like the new way to get into it.
Yeah, and it's a much better starting point than accidentally buying that garbage combat patrol that existed before.
Yeah, I mean, even right now, maybe you're not getting the best value because you could have gotten the Space Marines for free as well, but this is still a correct pickup just because it's going to be used, essentially.
And I don't think a second copy of this is even bad. Like, everything in here, you'll end up running 2 in some list eventually. Overlords, maybe not, but...
Yeah, I have no idea on that one. I feel like they probably will, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, Captain equivalents are weird.
The Warriors you're definitely going to use, and I think you should use more Doomstalkers because those are cool.
And, like, it's 480 points, so it's fine point-wise. It is going to be a discount. I'm aware it's not currently a discount, but when the current discount boxes are all gone, this will still be a discount. Perfectly fine starting point, A+, moving on.
Orks.
Orks is a pretty good one. So there's a little bit of a problem. You get a War Boss and Mega Armor, you get 3 Def Coptas, 1 Def Dread, and then 20 Ork Boys. The problem is the new Ork Boy kit is monopose and a mixed loadout.
Yes, it is a problem. You're going to want a lot of boys, so it's good to have 20 is not like, oh my god, that's so many. I'm only going to want 20. If you're running boys, you want a lot of them. And there are fixable ways for the monopose.
Yes, you can fix them. There's tutorials online on how to combine a bunch of kits and orks to fix up these boys to have the correct arms, which you'll probably have when you're getting into orks. Don't worry about it. And if you build the first 20 WYSIWYG, it's fine. You can end up fixing their loadouts between each other. And once you start building past that, you'll be fine.
It's orks. You can kit bash as much as you want and make things work.
And you're encouraged to kit bash a lot.
Yeah, so the monopose is not optimal. But the first box, I think, is still great value if you're getting into it.
It's a 43% discount. It's over 500 points of models.
Yeah, I mean, there's Def Coptas and Def Dread.
It's debatable on point cost right now, but that's still, it's in the ballpark. And it's a great discount in the first place. Totally good. All right, Space Marines. This is where we're going to get into some no's again. I'm going to run through this pretty quick here. Space Marines is getting a new start collecting that is based off of the kits that are in the Leviathan box set. Because they are the introductory army, you end up getting a bunch of intro sets for like a little versus box at different tiers like they did the last 2 editions. That will be available the entire edition. That usually makes the models in the edition launch box less of a deal than they look like on paper. So currently, this is 480 points, and we don't know the prices of the kits yet, but it comes down to the problem of you're going to have other ways to acquire most of the models in this Combat Patrol box, and I don't think you're going to want them. One of this is probably fine, but you should check whatever intro box comes out in a few months if it's better, or look on eBay to see if Space Marine Halves of Leviathan is just cheaper than buying this box, which it probably will be for at least like 6 months or so, maybe even the entirety of the year. And then we get into all of the chapter exclusive Space Marine sets. And these all come with the same issue. They have little upgrade sprues that are just like shoulder pads and little knickknacks to put on your guys to make them one of the other chapters. These should be valued at $0 and are instead valued at full price, which is a wildly overpriced amount. So they're all bad discounts, with one exception in my opinion. The only exception case is Dark Angels. So the Dark Angel box comes with a Primaris Chaplain, 3 Inceptors, 1 Redemptor Dread, 5 Intercessors, and then it comes with the upgrade sprues. This would normally make the box not worth it. However, it's still 500 points, and all of these units are fine to straight up great. So you're getting a lot of actual value that you're going to put on the table often and enjoy. So the Dark Angels box is probably my Space Marine box of choice at this point, especially if you have a different entry point that you can use instead of the Space Marine generic one.
All right, then. That's enough Space Marines. Let's move on to Thousand Suns. How do you like Thousand Suns? You love Zongors.
I love Thousand Suns. I love Zongors too, but I'm not going to recommend someone pay money for them. All right, so Thousand Suns. What to say about this box? It's bad. It's real bad. Don't buy it. So it's 410 points, which is low for a combat patrol. You could argue the Termies are undercosted, the Zongor are overcosted, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, you do get some points, but it's roughly 400 and...
It's low compared to the other combat patrols. Money-wise, it has a major issue. It's an Infernal Master, 5 Scarab Occult Terminators, and 20 Zongor. Half the price of this box is 20 Zongor. They priced it like you really want to pay for Zongors at a slight discount.
Yeah, don't do that.
Especially not 20 of them. You may run 10 Zongor semi-frequently in a list. You might have a list where you run 20 Zongor every once in a while, but you are locking yourself out of any time they ever make a box with Zongor again being at all useful to you as a discount.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing is like...
Just go buy a box of Terminators and one Infernal Master. It's cheaper than buying this box, and you can wait for better combo boxes in the future. Spend the rest of the money on buying some rubrics. They'll go further than 20 frickin' Zongor.
Yeah, just a bit. So, Thousand Sun sucks. Tyranids.
Exact same problem as Space Marines. The new box is based off the Leviathan sprues. It's only 450 points. It's stuff that just came in a combo box and is going to have repeats in the intro versus set boxes. I can't recommend this. It's got the weird issue of the Termagants because the Leviathan box set ones only come with one of their 3 guns, which is even weirder. Stay away from this one.
Okay. Let's move on to Tau.
Okay, Tau. We get an Ethereal, a Cadre Fireblade, a Ghost Keel, 3 Stealth Suits, and 10 Fire Warriors, so Strike Teams and Breacher Teams. It's a pretty good box. I wouldn't recommend multiples, but I'd recommend the first one at least. The problem is it's got 2 characters in it, which is part of why it looks like a good discount.
And it is for the first one.
Yeah, but you're probably not going to be running 3 Ethereals and 3 Cadre Fireblades, so you're not going to care that much about the secondary boxes. Tau tends to run more suit heavy than infantry heavy, so getting a bunch of Fire Warriors is less useful than in most armies. The Ghost Keel is cool. It's a nice centerpiece unit in this box. It's something sorely missing from boxes like Astra Militarum.
I think that is why, like, the first one I recommend because it has a good spread. You get your centerpiece, you get extra battle suits, you have some warriors, you get characters, and like it is still a decent value. But the second one, you're losing some value because you're probably not going to need 4 characters in most Tau lists.
Well, not those 4. It's a good box times 1.
Okay, let's end up with World Eaters.
All right, World Eaters, the ultimate maybe so. I would say no, but I'll give it a maybe so for general people. You get 1 World Eater's Lord on Juggernaut, which can be the named one. You get 10 Jackals and 20 Khorne Berserkers, and I just named the whole box. It's kind of rough to recommend this. Here's a problem. 20 Khorne Berserkers is 4 5-mans. 10 Jackals is probably the amount you'll end up running in a list.
I think so.
You might run 20 Jackals every once in a while. You're probably only going to run 1 of your Juggernaut Lords, maybe 2 in certain lists. But that means that if you buy this box, any World Eaters box that includes your basic troops is going to probably not be a discount for you ever again, for a box that's not very good to begin with. However, if you play World Eaters, you're probably the type of person to not give a shit. And you see 20 Khorne Berserkers and you go, yeah, boy! And then it's good for you. So it's a maybe so.
I think it probably is a good pickup on the first one.
It looks like a great deal points-wise, because it's like you can go up to almost 700 points in it, but I think that's mostly because Khorne Berserkers are slightly overpriced. Slightly a lot overpriced compared to, like, Assault Intercessors.
They're like 20% overpriced from what they should be. It's insane. Like, it's whatever, fine.
The World Eaters box has the problem of the World Eaters as an army. It's half an army, and this box has half the variety it should. It's kind of indicative of all of the Chaos Solo Legions and the problem that Emperor's Children is going to have later this edition when they appear.
Yeah, and I've got a rant for that, but that's not what this episode's going to be talking about. But the World Eaters box is fine, just not in multiple.
I'm never going to say above a maybe, and I would say a no personally.
Fair enough. Overall, I mean, most of them, pretty good. At least for the first.
Yeah, and the fact that several of them are debatable up to 3 or 4 means they're fantastic deals. Like, a lot of combat patrols are very good pickups when you're new. It's just there's a couple that can be a bit of a trap or might not be the best starting point compared to doing other stuff. But hopefully this solves that problem because we've been getting a lot of questions about this over the last week, partly because, 10th edition and people wanting an update on intro boxes as they're just starting out. There you go.
Hopefully this was helpful.
If you want other help, check our YouTube channel. All sorts of intro-oriented stuff we've released quite recently to help you. For our more experienced people, I promise next week will be something entirely different as always.
Should be fun.
All right, without any further ado, let's get out of here.
Sounds good.